questions, please, for any of us? Thank you.
Hello there, my name's Jackie Darby and I'm the IPC lead for Defence Primary Healthcare at the MOD. This is a question for Liam. I've been looking at clinical waste this week with a view to sustainability, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I thought that the orange bags were always incinerated and that the yellow bags were treated prior to going to landfill. And I'm probably not alone in that, so I'm going to admit that. But just looking at part of the HTM and also your figures on landfill and the aspiration for zero landfill in the future, we don't have a lot of control over that because our waste contractors come and collect our waste. And because we're an international organisation, there's no way that we could do that ourselves. But what they do with it and how it's disposed of, we don't have a lot of any control over that. So are NHSE putting any pressure onto waste contracting companies to go down a more sustainable route for disposal of clinical waste bags?
So that's a great question. Firstly, thanks for fessing up.
Do you want to stand there, Liam?
Well, I can stand here.
It's
So
up to you.
some time ago, before I answer that question, some time ago when I was at Barts, the waste manager I had working for me, she made an appointment for this lady to come and see me. She said, I've made an appointment for this lady to come and see me. She's from the Royal College of Nursing and she's the sustainability lead for Royal College of Nursing, particularly IPC. And I'm like, oh my God. And this was back in the day when I was banging my head on the IPC wall. And this lady came to see me, her name's Rose Gallagher. And she's absolutely fantastic. Didn't know at the time, I was quite nervous. And she came down and sat, there's three of us in this room. I made sure there was my waste manager between me and her. And she said, Liam, before I start, just want to say one thing. IPC has nothing to do with waste management, and waste management has nothing to do with IPC. And I was like, where have you been all my life? And the thing is, we're actually in a symbiotic relationship. And so the waste managers are here to help you with that understanding. You're not alone with the urban myth of what happens with waste. You know, I hear it all the time, oh, it just all gets burnt, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. One of the things, when we did this policy, it was all fabulous and, you know, bells and whistles. And then as on the day that we launched the HTM, the head of the EA, who I'm really good mates with, came to me and he said, Liam, we want the NHS to stop burning waste. I'm like, okay, what about all this? No, just stop burning waste. So that's the second bit of the curve in terms of reusing stuff. So all this stuff that we're talking about here is to stop burning waste. If you burn it, no matter what you call it, pyrolysis, it's a full stop on the resource, number one. Coming back to what can we do with our supply chain. A while back, we had some meetings with the supply chain and we were accused of not telling them where we were going, especially when it dawned on them what 2020-60 meant. It meant that we don't need as many incinerators, we probably don't need as many autoclaves as we've got, but we do need a solution for offensive waste, which nobody really had. And so what we're now doing is we're sitting down and we're saying, okay, we're giving you business cycles every 5 years, we're telling you where we're going and where we're going to be at the end of each one of those 5 years. You can invest in it because it's an exciting future or not. And I think to do with dictating where your contractors go, there's two ways you can do it. One, contractually, thou shalt not landfill our waste, thanks very much. And number two is to do your duty of cares. So if you're looking at people and they tell you they're doing this, to go and have a look to see whether they're doing it or not. And they're very practical things. But I think the supply chain is moving, and the reason why, I think, as we start to talk to them, start to dawn on us what clinical waste is going to look like in the future. And I view it as the way domestic waste used to look like in the past. So 30 years ago, we used to throw all our domestic waste in black sacks. and it would get taken away and probably landfilled. One day, the black sack split open and somebody's gone, hold on a minute here. There's aluminium cans, £300 a tonne. There's PET bottles, £150 a tonne. There's paper, £120 a tonne. We can actually make money out of this. And that's how MRFs and recyclers got into this market. That's how it started. And I think clinical waste is going to be the same. I'm going to an event next week with Loughborough University in Remed, and they were showing me technology when I went there a month ago, and they were showing me technology where they're picking clinical waste off a conveyor belt with robots, you know. And so these guys are looking way into the future here, you know, because firstly, can we pick it off? Looks like they can do that. Next thing is, what are we going to do with it? And that's what next week's meeting's to talk about, is the wherewithal to do it. So I think there's a movement here, and I think everyone will start to pick up the change in the wind direction of where we're going with this. And I think you'll probably find less resistance than you think in terms of that. But if you're in NHS and you love Liam, no landfill next year, please.
Hi, it's Johnny again from Southend. The IV infusion bags, they've got the recycling logo on them, but can they go into the recycling bag, or do they have to go into the clinical waste bag?
Which bags?
All the IV infusion bags, you know, saline, Hartmann's, all that sort of stuff.
That's a great question. Depends what's in them.
As long as it's not being contaminated with drugs, I suppose.
So if it's drugs, then it has to go for high temperature incineration. If it's saline, then it can go into offensive waste bags. Generally speaking, you need to speak to your supply chain. They might not like free-flowing liquids. So
bag's empty.
So the bag is technically empty. You might find droplets in it, but it's not free-flowing. Yeah. And the other thing was, a lady was saying that some of the IV bags have got sharps on the end of them. Some of them have got the sharps in them. If they've got the sharps in the lines, that's not a problem. If they've got the sharps and they stick out, then it's a problem.
Yeah,
it has to go into a sharps box.
It's not the giving sets, it's the bags themselves.
Yeah.
So can they go in the recycling stream?
Again, what you need to do is you need to speak to your supply chain to say, are you happy with taking this? Chances are yes, because it's not clinical waste.
Okay, thanks.
Hi Liam, I'm Anne-Marie from UHB. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the key skills framework, and in light of the comment earlier about IPC and waste. The waste standards for the key skills framework actually sit within IPC.
Yeah.
Are there any plans in the future to kind of separate that out for waste to have its own?
Don't know. Interesting enough, in the last year, IPC updated their guidance on stuff, and within that, there was a little waste sector. I got to write it. They let me write. They didn't let me put what I wanted in, but they let me write it because I just wanted to refer to HTM, and they couldn't bring themselves to that. Cause I just said, don't even just put a little chart in from the HTM and point to it. I think this is something that's going to develop over time. You know, that I committed at the launch of the HTM that we're going to do some how-to guides. First how-to guide that came off the block was down in the southeast in Kent area. Community nurses wanted a how-to guide of how to HTM when you're a community nurse. And we did it, and we got the HTM down to 30 pages. They were really pleased with it. I wasn't. I don't. People haven't got time to read that. It needs to be something much more straightforward. The next cab off the block was the IPC lead came to me and said, will you write an how-to guide for frontline nursing? And I'm like, and I've got a great idea. And they said to me, okay. And I said, I'm going to send you something, but you have to promise to be nice to me. And they went, okay. I created a little cartoon video, probably something like Janet's going to do. And it was like 2 minutes. And I made it myself on my own computer. And it was pretty rubbishy. But the message was very simple, straightforward. Sent it to IPC. They came back and said, we love it. So, with Health Education England, who are now part of NHS England, we are producing that video professionally, and we're going to be able to share it out. So it's a 2-minute video. They said, these are the same people that do ESR mandatory training. And we need this. No. It's not training. This is awareness. This is just the basics of what we're talking about here. And so that will be ready. The graphics came this morning, And I think the final thing will be ready in October and be able to share that. And I think that's a start of starting to explain waste is fairly simple at the top level. When you get a millimetre deep into it, it opens out into this universe of complexity. And actually what we need to do is to make it simple for people whose primary job is to make people better. Then not everyone signed up to sustainability, certainly not guests and visitors in hospitals.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Gary. I've just come in from local authority. I've been with the NHS for about 4 weeks. What I'm seeing is basically, obviously, the waste industry has moved rapidly through local authority, and everything's being quite force changed. Is there any kind of best practice due, or best guidance? Because from what I'm seeing from working from Somerset, we've got 3 hospitals that have basically amalgamated. We've got different operational procedures across there. One thing about local authority and domestic waste cycles is that you can't, one boot doesn't fit. It does with the NHS to a degree, because you've got fixed assets and stuff like that. So is that something that's in and working with things like local authorities and best practice and all that kind of stuff?
So I think two elements to that answer. With the rise of ICBs or ICSs, depends how you look at them, they are going to be working with local authorities. So this working together thing is still melding at the moment. And when you look around the country, from the Ivory Tower down in Waterloo where I am, they're all in different levels of crystallisation. So there's still a lot of learning going on there. So that's the first thing. I think there's going to be a change in the way that we view things more globally. As far as waste management is concerned, what's really interesting is there's 240 odd trusts with 240 waste policies, which I always found bizarre because there is only one waste policy. It's called HCM 0701. What I suggest people do is refer to HCM 0701 and say, which means here we do this. Yeah, because it is bizarre, because when I ask people regularly, is your waste policy up to date with the latest HTM? And the answer mainly is no. It's not due for renewal and for another 2 or 3 years or something. The problem is, if you try and change anything, you're going to get blocked because it's not in line with the waste policy. And actually, we should have waste policies that are in line with the HTM. And the HTM may well change over time. So actually, if you point at the HTM and there's a change in the HTM, actually, that's the reason why it's written in the way it is online now, is that update is already in there. You haven't got to go and produce all the documents again. Review them, yes. Produce new documents, no.